This is Chip Maxwell, and you're listening to the Retire Smart podcast with David Brooks. On this episode of Retire Smart, we look back on a one-of-a-kind client appreciation event at Memorial Stadium, reflecting the firm's deepening partnership with Nebraska Athletics. David and Chip also spotlight the Journey of Hope charity and dive into major updates on the economy, from job numbers and government hiring trends to tax implications of the newly passed Big Beautiful Bill. Plus, a candid look at political shifts, market indicators, and what it all means for your financial future. Well, David, normally I'm wearing a suit when we do this show, but I've got my Retire Smart polo. I think the microphone might be blocking the logo a little bit there, but I also want folks to see. I'll do a little Husker flex here on the sleeve because tonight.
Look at those
David,
guns, Chip.
Well, I try. And you're decked out in a Husker polo here. We have a lot of fun things that we do at Retire Smart. We have the State of the Market address. We've had some great Christmas parties. We sponsor the patriotic parade and so forth, but we're doing something tonight that we have never done before. And David, we have 400 people signed up for Night at Memorial. This is Memorial Stadium, Lincoln, Nebraska, Tom Osborne Field. The new field, I understand, has been put in. The new
and
turf.
We're the first folks to get to be on it.
We're going to be on it for, I don't know what to call this, David. It's part picnic, it's part jamboree, I think we're going to be kicking field goals at one end of the field. It's just going to be.
I think I'm going to do a 40-yard dash against all the advisors and
make sure we have some medical personnel on site as well. Then it's going to be a blast. This is in connection, of course. We're one of the main sponsors now of Nebraska Athletics, and so this is one of the first manifestations of that partnership. But just quickly tell us how it came together and what's happening.
Well, when they approached us for sponsorship, of course we were happy to do so and align it. But one of the things that we had to go back in, and I was like, no, we need to have a little something for our clients. We want to get some access, so we put in a provision where we can use some of the facilities within our sponsorship deal, and because a lot of fans, and again, listen, not being raised in Nebraska, but now being fully assimilated for over 8 years, have lived here. This is a pretty big deal. And, these folks have been coming and supporting the Huskers like no other fan base in history. And I mean, we got a sellout streak going all the way back to 62. But a lot of folks have never had the opportunity to stand on the field. So we just thought, what a cool thing it'll be for, and we've already gotten emails in, clients super excited about it. So anyway, it should be just a lot of fun, and I'm glad we can give the opportunity. We told clients bring their kids, grandkids, etc. And we got several special guests coming. So, it should be a really fun night.
Well, it's a big week every week's a big week at Retire Smart, but we also have one of the highlights of our charitable philanthropic calendar at Retire Smart. The Journey of Hope is coming through town, and your brother Lou was one of the founders of this project. Quickly tell people about Journey of Hope.
Yeah, so these guys and my brother with his fraternity, they I think they were inaugural. I believe it was 89. He'll correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was in 1989. He biked from San Francisco, I believe, all the way to D.C. And I'll never forget how proud my dad was of him. So back then, this is before he could, had graphic design like you do. We had little pins put into a map, a good old-fashioned AAA map, and framed for him of every stop along the way. They biked across the country, but they were raising money for kids. And so now they've blown this into the Ability Project, and there's a couple of different charities in each city that sponsor this, and so it helps kids with disabilities. It's a fantastic organization, and so the cool thing is so we carb these kids up. They need carbs, right? So when the bikers come through, not only do we write a check and sponsor, but we feed these guys. And so they last year was the first year they came to the office, and we got them, of course, a Midwest classic, so Casey's Breakfast Pizza. So no sponsorship there, but Casey's, if you do want to sponsor going forward, we're happy to accept the pizzas for free. But anyway, so we fill these guys up with some carbohydrates because they're biking, 100 some miles a day, et cetera, having some fun. And the great thing is these are college kids looking to go out in the world. So, last year I got to engage with them for about an hour, just answering questions on career. And there were 3 or 4 finance majors in there. And so I love talking with them. But anyway, it's just a great experience all around. And my brother Lou, this one's near and dear to his heart for sure.
Well, it's always it's fun too. There's a dinner dance in the evening, and some of the special needs community comes out, and it is uninhibited joy. Those of you who sample our YouTube channel. I think our producer Shannon has put up clips in the past, and he'll probably have some from this year of the dancing and the merriment. And it's a great time. It's a great cause. Journey of Hope, if you want to learn more about it and perhaps get involved yourself supporting it. All right, David, you and financial advisor Alex Murray dove into the big, beautiful bill last week. I know you and financial advisor Josh Cheadle are going to dig into it in the second segment of this show. I think we have a couple of questions about it in the Q&A, so I don't want to spend a whole lot of time now, but I just want to get your general take. Elon Musk is so upset he's starting a third party. Are you glad that the big, beautiful bill became the big, beautiful law?
Well, yes, I'm glad it passed in general, just because there's provisions in there. We would have had the largest tax increase on the American public if it didn't, right? Would have been over $5 trillion in tax increases on the American public. And by the way, Chip, we just finished our fiscal year, right? Our fiscal year basically ends every June 30th as a country. $5.1 trillion in revenue. So we broke the 5 trillion mark in revenue. We do not have a revenue problem in the U.S.
I thought the tariffs were going to destroy us. It was going to be Armageddon, financial Armageddon.
Yeah. So, and again, we can get into all that later because we have tariff letters going out again this week. But anyway, but there's a lot of pork in the big, beautiful bill that is upsetting. There's some provisions in there I don't like. We're going to do a breakdown of the whole thing. For instance, though, if you happen to be a fisherman in Alaska, you get a one-time $50,000 deduction. The only state that gets it, that was to get Lisa Murkowski's vote, right? So akin to the Cornhusker kickback, you remember? We have a bridge there's a certain bridge here that you will never walk on, right? Simply because there's a pedestrian bridge to get you across the river to Iowa. But I know you will never set foot on it because of an earmark. Well, that happened in this bill in the late hours. In the last 6 hours, there's 14 such pork things that were stuck in there that would make the average person
sausage-making process.
Yes, But anyway, we're going to break down. We're going to put a video out on this stuff in detail later.
I know you and our in-house accountant Evan Marshall have also been digging into the tax-related particulars of it.
Yes.
So more to come on that front. We may have to start a David Brooks Political Futures Index. You would have cashed in big time last week. We were talking about Don Bacon's announcement of his retirement when his current term is finished. And he's talking about spending more time with family and so forth. And you opined, or on the other hand, what if he's just kind of catching his breath and regrouping? And, that every 2 years, there's always an election around the corner when you're in the House, regroup and maybe run for something else. Well, it was just a day or two later that NBC published an interview with Don Bacon. Here's the headline: Centrist Representative Don Bacon is done with Congress, but open to a potential presidential bid. And in the interview, he also talks about possibly running for governor of Nebraska. Did you have an inside source? What?
I did not, but I understand how politicians think.
Okay.
And I've been around them a long time. And, I don't know who's advising him. Like I mentioned, he might want to run for the Senate seat. I'll just say it on the air right now. Don Bacon has zero chance of winning the presidential election at this point. Not in the next 2 cycles. There's zero chance. I'll just go out on record and tell you.
Okay.
I don't know who's given him the advice there, but I don't think he could win his district this next go around. We've talked about that, and I think that's why he's stepping aside. But again, look, you consider Don a friend. I do too. He's been a centrist. He voted as a centrist. So he's done nothing wrong. He ran on who he is, and he voted on who he is.
And he governs that way.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. He was who he says he is. I just don't think that is wishy-washy as he is too middle of the road. You can get through a primary season and get the nomination of any major political party. But unless he plans on maybe joining a new political party, who knows? We know one of those has been formed recently. But anyway, we'll see.
Well, I appreciate he's been willing to fight the good fight in a tough district for 5 times out. But anyway, we'll keep an eye on that. All right, David, the June jobs number came out, and actually you sent the team barrage of items related to this. I'm going to deal 3 of them to you and let you work your way through. Just in overall, we've got the June jobs number, which actually was a little higher than estimated, but then you sent a chart on the private sector, and there was actually a net decline in the private sector. And then you sent some information about job cuts in relation to recession. David, please take us through this.
Okay, so we get what's called the ADP report, and it's become less accurate for what we're going to get. So that comes out typically Thursday after the end of the month, right, from the previous month's hiring on private payrolls. And so ADP is the largest payroll provider in the United States. So you used to be able to actually count on that number to give you some relative understanding of what's coming. Well, we have a chart on the screen right now that shows you those private payroll numbers with ADP have been drastically dropping consistently here for a long time now. However, the accuracy between that number and then what gets reported on the first Friday of every month, the government's idea of jobs number, which is done from a survey, all right, was drastically different this time. So, yeah, ADP reported only 33,000 private sector jobs, and then the jobs number came out. We were expecting about 110,000. It was 147,000 jobs. Yet the labor participation force, we lost 800,000 people, just vanished out of those numbers. And so unemployment basically looks pretty good down there around 4.1, 4.2.
But the participation rate went down
significantly.
In other words, able-bodied people who could be working,
right?
Just
and
choosing not to
so we've got a
participate.
chart on the board right now from the Federal Reserve that shows you unemployment rate ticking up. And every time, if you look at this chart, that unemployment has grown this fast, this high, a recession has followed, or we were already in one. So again, I've been telling people I believe that we've been in what we call a rolling recession for a while. It's been rolling through manufacturing, et cetera, and then service industry. It's not been called a recession. You have the Federal Reserve who refuses to lower interest rates, yet they keep trying to say we're data dependent. Well, the data would tell you if you cut 50 basis points last September with inflation at 3% because it was heading towards your goal, and inflation has now been below 2.4% for 6 consecutive months, and you won't lower rates, then you are, in fact, being political, right? And so the other odd duck in that payroll number, Chip, is in June. Where do you think you would see job losses naturally take place? Just what sector of the economy comes to mind?
You would think education would be slowing
the end
down
of the
in
school
June,
year.
but the story says no.
But that's the thing. Is over half the jobs created in this job report, if it were true, were government and education
It's
jobs.
in that first graphic that we showed, 73,000 of the 147.
Well, the government's not supposed to be hiring. They're supposed to be firing people if DOGE is taking effect, right? And education, you would think jobs would go away. So again, can you trust the survey? I don't know. We've been talking about that for the last 2 years. So it's just not been it's not very rosy when you look at the data. Now, then you can look at leading indicators of where jobs will be in the future. And we're seeing job cuts start to mount, the Challenger jobs report, et cetera. And then when you look at exports and what we're sending out, right, things we're shipping, we had a massive drop in exports unexpectedly this past month. Well, if companies are shipping out less goods and services, what does that tell you about their future of the jobs market, right? So there's just a lot of data here that tells you just be cautious of what might be coming here in the near future.
Thank you for listening to the Retire Smart podcast with David Brooks. If you want to learn how to generate lifetime income, reduce your tax bill, and maintain your lifestyle in retirement, visit retiresmartpodcast.com. And make sure to subscribe to keep up with new episodes every week. The University of Nebraska and University of Nebraska Athletics, also known as Nebraska Cornhuskers, are not clients of Smart Wealth LLC nor Retire Smart LLC. Playfly Sports Properties, on behalf of the Nebraska Cornhuskers, was compensated for this endorsement. As such term is defined under SEC Rule 206, subsection 4-1. For more information, visit retiresmartnow.com/cornhusker disclosure or email compliance@retiresmartllc.com.